Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to walk you through the process of assembling our Lego blocks using the assembly feature in Onshape. So let's go. Here you can see the Lego block part that we've created. What we're going to do now is add a new assembly feature. Just like we added the new drawing sheet by clicking on the plus sign in the lower left corner, we're going to click the Insert New Element plus sign, and then we're going to create an assembly. The first thing we're going to do is place the part we want to bring in first. Because we're going to be stacking these Lego blocks to build something, we want to go to the Insert tab, choose the part that we have open in our file, and then we can drop as many occurrences of this Lego block as we want. For example, I'll start out with 4 simple Lego block occurrences. Each time you place the block, you have to go back and select the part from the Insert Parts menu. Let's start with 4 blocks. You can add more blocks as you want later on. So here I have the 4 blocks that I'm going to use, and these blocks I want to stack on top of each other. But if I just drag them and set them over here, it's really hard to get them to fit on top of each other. So what I want to do is make sure that this block can go exactly on top of the other one. So how I do that is by using what's called a constraint. The constraints you're going to use are located up here in the ribbon. Feel free to play with these constraints to get your blocks where you want them. Most of the time, we're going to use this standard planar mate constraint. If I want this front surface to match up flush with this front surface here, I'm going to use the planar mate feature, select the front face of my back block, then select the front face of my front block. You'll notice that in this situation, it put the 2 blocks together, and that's okay. We can move them apart later. I'm going to click the plus sign, and then I'm going to drag one of these blocks upward. You'll see that there are still 2 blocks here. They were just combined together. In order to get one block to stop moving, you're going to right-click on that block and select the word Fix. This is going to ground it in place so it doesn't move. I should still be able to move the top block, but now you'll see that the bottom block doesn't move. I'm not done with my constraints yet because just setting this here doesn't make it constrained. If I rotate around, I can see there's still a little bit of a gap there. So what I want to do is select my next constraint that's going to allow me to set this block directly on top of the one below it. To do that, I go back to the planar mate constraint. Here, I'm going to select the surface I want to move, which is the underside of my top block. Make sure that you're selecting the surfaces and not the corner points or edges. You'll know you're on the surface because the entire area will have an orange border around it. So I'm going to move this surface down to the top of the block below it, which would be this surface. I select those 2 surfaces, select the check mark, and that block has now moved on top of the one below it. You can see by rotation, it's sitting perfectly on top. However, there is a 4 block or a 4 circle gap here that I want to close up. So essentially, I want to bring this block forward and put it right up against the one that's next to it here. To do that, I'm going to go back to the planar mate, select the right side of this block, select the right side of this block, and even though it disappears, once we click the green check mark, it'll pop it right back up in place where it needs to be. Don't be fooled by that preview option. It's not really what's going to happen to the block. So here we have these 2 blocks locked together. In fact, if I tried to move one or the other, it won't let me because they've been constrained perfectly. Now I want to get these blocks to sit onto or next to these, the first set that I put together. But on these blocks, I'm going to rotate them 90 degrees and set them on the top and on the back. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the mate constraint. I want to mate this right edge or right surface to this front surface so that the block rotates. I'm then going to click the check mark to apply it. Now I'm going to bring this block up a little bit, rotate to the back side of it, because the next thing I'm going to do is sit this surface of the bottom of our 3rd block down onto this surface, the top of our 2nd block. Again, I can use the planar mate constraint, select the surface, you'll know it's the surface because you get the orange border, and then select the area or surface you want it to sit on top of. And in this case, it's the top of our 2nd block. Click the check mark, and that block will rotate as necessary. However, you'll see that it's gone in upside down. To change this, you can edit planar 5 and change the arrow direction, flip primary axis, which will put our block on top. Again, let me reassure you on this one. If the block goes in upside down or backwards, double click the mate move that you created, change the arrow direction until you get the block where you want it to be, and then click the green check mark. So now that block is on top like I wanted it. However, I want it to sit directly in the middle of this set of blocks. So now I have to drag this surface forward in order to get it to sit where I want it. Choose the mate constraint, select the right side surface, then select the other right side surface. Make sure that you have 0 set as the offset and click the check mark. So now that block has been set perfectly on top of the first 2 blocks. If I want one of these blocks to be in the center, so slid across evenly, I have to change the offset values. So we're going to try this mate constraint again for the right side of this block to the front face of our front block, or I should say of our second block. But I'm going to apply an offset, and the offset I'm going to apply is 8 inches. You'll see that it slides that block forward, putting it closer to being in the middle of our other blocks. If I rotate this way, you can see that it's centered on the other block. We've got a few more constraints to do to get it where we want it, but it's pretty well centered on the top of the other one. I'm going to mate the bottom surface of block 4 to the top surface of block 2. And again, before I click check mark this time, I'm going to flip the direction. So now my block has been moved. Let's get rid of this. My block has been moved so that I can place my last constraint to even it up with this side of block 1 and 2. So now I'm going to choose the mate constraint, and I'm going to mate this surface of block 4 to this surface of block 2. Again, don't let this offset fool you in the preview. That's not what's going to happen with the block. We know that those 2 surfaces need to line up and everything else was good. So I'm going to click the green check mark, and now it's going to place that block in the middle. And again, that was an 8-inch offset. So anytime you want blocks set in the middle, just apply the 8-inch offset to get it where you want it. I'm not sure what this is going to be yet, and it really doesn't have to be anything at this point. I'm just going to continue stacking blocks until I can come up with some kind of a creation using these Lego pieces. I've always liked being able to throw the directions out when I buy a box or bag of Legos because it's more creative to come up with something on your own. See what you can come up with. I'd like to see you use a minimum of 10 parts, so 10 individual blocks, to come up with something. Although it may take more to get your design across, spend as much time as you need coming up with something that you'd like to create using these Lego blocks. That's all I have for you guys for this video. Feel free to get creative with this one. You're going to get points for creativity, and you're going to get points for using a minimum of 10 blocks. So have fun with it, and when you're done, make sure that you share that block with me for credit. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this.